Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar series on sustainability in business strategies for a green and profitable future. My name is Shahnaz Marika, and I'm a senior lecturer at AIBS campus. On behalf of AIBS campus, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you, and I'm honored to be your moderator for this session. Today, we have the privilege of welcoming Mr. Kavindu Madhavaka. Kavindu is an accomplished professional with a wealth of experience in textile and process engineering sector. He completed his BSc in honors in textile and process engineering from the University of Mortua and earned his master's degree with distinction in international business from the University of Salford in UK. Additionally, he is also a CIMA UK past finalist. Kavindu began his career at MAS Siluleta Private Limited in 2008 as a management trainee and has had various key roles, including color technologist, fabric technologist, and material technologist. In 2013, he was promoted to technology entrepreneur, and since 2017, he has been serving as the intellectual property and risk manager for the risk manager, where he oversees the organization's intellectual property strategy. Today, Mr. Madhavaka will share his insights on integrating sustainability into business practices. So we will have a question and answer session after his presentation. So please hold on to your questions until then. Without further delay, let's welcome Mr. Kavindu Madhavaka.
Right. Yes. So hope I'm audible. Good evening and welcome you all for this session. Thank you very much, AIBS team, for inviting me for this, and Ms. Shahnaz for that lovely introduction. So let me share my screen. Right, I hope the slide is up.
Yes, we can see it.
Thanks. So our topic for today is sustainability in business. So in today's session, I hope to take you through what sustainability means for businesses. And we will also look at some possible strategies that are available for companies that could be adopted for a green and a profitable future. So I can promise you it will be an interesting session where I will share some case studies, some examples from the industry, and also we'll share some videos as well for your viewing. Right. So moving on to what we are going to cover today. So basically, we will start with the basics by looking at what sustainability is. Then we look at what sustainable development is about. Then I'll talk about the three main pillars of sustainability. And then we'll move on to sustainability for business, what product sustainability means, and what environmental sustainability means for a business. Then we look at what life cycle thinking is and some other operational and supply chain related matters related to sustainability, which are very much relevant for businesses. And then I'll introduce you to the concept of greenwashing, and we look at sustainability reporting. So this is the agenda for today, right? So starting with the basics, what is sustainability, right? So I have a few quotes or phrases, sentences in here, which contain the word sustainable. So let's take a read, right? The first one, maybe a parent might be advising his children, saying to have a sustainable future, you must study hard. So the word sustainable is there. Then an employee struggling in the company might say this kind of workload is not sustainable in the longer term, right? What about the third one? Maybe a doctor might say this, if you eat junk food every day, your health will not be sustainable. Fourth one, the exchange rates needs to be brought down to a more sustainable level. Maybe an economist might say this. And then maybe a manager in a company who's handling supply chain might say, if our business is to sustain, we have to work with reliable supplies, right? So what does sustain or sustainability means? In general, it's about the ability to continue something, right, over a period of time. And it is also referring to the strategic nature of things, right, the longer term nature of things, right. So sustainability in general would refer to the ability to maintain or support a process continuously over time, right? That is what sustainability in general means, right? Okay, so going back to a little bit of history, to evolution, to find out why where we are today, right? So did you know that the Earth, the planet that we live in, came into existence around 4.6 billion years ago, right? 4.6 billion years ago. Then life on Earth started around 3.7 billion years ago, right? So it took a billion years for the life to start on this planet, right? And then the first humans, they appeared on the planet around 2 million years ago, right? So comparatively, quite recently, because we were talking in billions now, the humans came into existence around 2 million years ago. And then these humans started hunting. The humans started hunting, right? We were here around 500,000 years ago, right? Then when do you think the agriculture started? Humans started agriculture. It was only around 12,000 years ago. See, we came from billions to millions to thousands. So only 12,000 years ago, people started agriculture, right? And also slowly but surely, these humans started impacting the planet with what they are doing. And then came the Industrial Revolution. That was only around 250, 300 years ago, very, very recently in comparison. So with the Industrial Revolution, the impact that the people were starting to make came to a very significant level, right? And do you know that our numbers have swelled to over 7 billion people? And as humans, we consume resources at a ever-increasing rate, right? And we have altered more than 50% of the Earth's land. If you take the Earth's land, humans have impacted and altered over 50% of that, clearing forests, building cities, right, removing mountain tops in search of coal. So see the impact that we have made. And we have also changed the atmosphere, affecting other species. And we have changed the environmental cycles, like the water cycle. So the impact that we are making have gradually also increased. And we have come to this era called Anthropocene. Now, the scientists call this era Anthropocene after 1950s, which is the time during which humans have had a substantial impact on the planet. So I have a few graphs at the right corner of the presentation, which shows how much of an impact is being created after 1950 in terms of ocean acidification, coastal nitrogen. So these are measures that do assess the impact that the humans are creating on the planet. So at this point of time, the impact that we are creating is quite marvelous, right? So with that in mind, I want to show you this video, right? This is a clip from a news item. So I want you to listen to this, take a look at this, to see how things are getting into extremes, in the globe that we are living in. So let's take a look.
It's been called the blizzard of the century, the snowstorm battering the U.S. and Canada. An emergency has been declared for New York State, which is bearing the brunt of the storm. At least 50 people have died across the United States. Snow has buried parts of Buffalo, New York, and emergency crews are struggling to reach trapped residents. Some of the dead have been found frozen in vehicles and snowbanks. Severe weather events are becoming increasingly common. Floods, fires, and extreme temperatures wreaked havoc across the world in 2022, one of the warmest years on record. Places where cold is the norm are experiencing abnormal temperatures with devastating consequences.
This is no rowdy ski holiday. It's a research station near the South Pole. And minus 11.8 degrees Celsius was 40 degrees hotter than usual on March 18th. It's probably the largest temperature anomaly ever recorded. Incredibly, at the same time at the North Pole, some places were 30 degrees warmer than usual. Mountain glaciers, such as this one in the Himalayas that feeds the mighty river Ganges, continued to shrink as India was hit by heat waves that came earlier and were longer and/or hotter than usual. Pakistan also sweltered. A few weeks later, both countries were hit by massive monsoon rains. 1/3 of Pakistan was flooded, creating a huge humanitarian emergency. The floods destroyed farmland, killed more than 1,700 people, and displaced more than 33 million.
My child died in the damp, cold nights. We don't have anything to eat. My husband is unemployed and poor. My 2 children have died in the camps.
West Africa also suffered an unusually heavy rainy season, with months of flooding in Nigeria displacing up to 2 million people. In East Africa, the rains failed again, worsening the most severe drought in recent history. The UN says 36 million people are affected in Somalia and parts of Ethiopia and Kenya, with more than 5 million children malnourished.
They're sickly most of the time. They go to bed on an empty stomach. I just feel terrible.
In Madagascar, the seasonal rains also failed. After 4 years of drought, the south of the island is facing a food crisis. In some places, residents have had to dig into the dry riverbed to find water. 2022 also saw China suffer its longest and harshest heat wave on record, with the Yangtze and other rivers reduced to mere trickles, and many lakes turned into dust bowls.
Right. So that's an indication about the state that we are facing today, right? So things are getting into extremes. If it is heat, it's extreme heat, extreme temperatures. If it is cold, that's extremely cold, right? So things are getting into extremes because of the impact that we have created, the negative impacts rather, to the planet that we are living in. Now people are realizing this. People are realizing this, and people started realizing this, in fact, in the 1980s, primarily, right? So this is in a chronological order, how people sort of started acting towards this issue that we are facing. So in 1980s, this movement called environmental health and safety came up, right? So that was to sort of set up regulation, basically to reduce pollution. Then in 1992, after 12 years, the Rio Earth Summit happened, right? With the Rio Earth Summit, the global leaders came together and they said that we have to collectively do something about this. And then in 1997, the Kyoto Protocol happened, right? And there was this discussion to make sure that individual targets were set rather than having general targets, individual targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, right? Then in 2000, the Millennium Development Goals came about, right? So these were time-bound targets, basically to enhance social sustainability aspects. And in 2015, the Sustainable Development Goals came about. And with that, the Paris Agreement was signed in 2017, right? So in 2015, I told you about the Sustainable Development Goals. And these are the goals that the global leaders follow at the moment. And it was a 15-year-old plan where 450 world leaders came together and they had an agenda for 2030, where 17 Sustainable Development Goals and 169 targets were set. So the entire globe started talking about it, doing something about it, so that we can have a better future. So this is actually the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that were drafted. I just wanted you to sort of have an idea about the trends that are there in terms of sustainable development, right? So we all agree that the development work has to be sustainable. So what is sustainable development? It's about meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. A very nice way of defining sustainability and sustainable development. So what this essentially means is that you can have your share of the pie, right? But you must also ensure the future generations also will be able to have their share later on. So that's essentially what sustainable development is about, right? So moving on from there, I hope up to now you are clear about what sustainability is, why we are talking about it, why the globe is talking about it, and what the significance of sustainable matters are, right? And now, what are we doing about it is something quite important, isn't it? And we now want to focus on sustainability for businesses, right? This is why, right? So we traditionally think that it's the responsibility of the governments to make sure that the regulations are set so that the processes are followed and the world is made to be a sustainable place to live, right? So we usually put it to the governments, the regulators. But did you know it's actually the corporates, companies, businesses that run the globe, right? Do you know that the top 10 companies, if you list down all the companies for their wealth and all the countries for their wealth, the top 10 companies are larger than the bottom 180 countries of the world, right? So that's how powerful companies, businesses are in the globe, right? So they are very powerful. They can impact a lot. And do you also know that 69 of the top 100 economic entities, if you list down the economic entities, right, for their wealth, then 89 of those are corporations, companies, businesses, not countries, right? So that is the impact that businesses do make on the globe. So the decisions that are made, the applications that are deployed by the companies are very impactful in order for sustainable initiatives to take place as well. Okay. Now, with that in mind, when we talk about sustainability, we look at sustainability under three main pillars. So these pillars are profit, planet, and people. So let me explain. These are the building blocks of sustainability. These are through which we look at sustainable business. Right? Economic sustainability, right? So economic sustainability is about making sure that your company will survive, right? So if your business doesn't make revenue, don't make profit, then your business will die out, right? Your business will not sustain. So it's very important that we think about economic sustainability or profit sustainability to make sure that our businesses do sustain, right? They have long-term financial stability as a business entity to continue business, right? So that's economic sustainability. Is it important? Yes, it is very important. It is very important that your business is able to economically sustain. But we are not stopping there. We are also thinking about the environment now, right? So your company might thrive, your company might succeed, but without the environment, there is going to be a problem, right? So environmental sustainability is actually the ability to maintain the ecological balance in our planet's natural environment and make sure that the natural resources are conserved as much as possible, right? So we look at environmental sustainability in detail as well. The third pillar is social sustainability. So social sustainability is identifying the impact that your actions are making on people, both negative and positive aspects, and making sure that your stakeholders, your communities, your vicinity is in good hands, right? So we look at sustainability through these three lenses or areas. What are those? Economic sustainability, environment, and social sustainability, right? And when it comes to economic business sustainability, a business would either be a product or a service, right? And product sustainability is something that is really evolving at the moment in business, right? Now, if you look at 10, 15 years ago, if you are familiar with how businesses work, right? So the consumers, customers, they come to your place and sort of discuss about the products that you have. What are the products that you have on offer? What are the functional products you have? What are the novel products you have? So we have a discussion. So in those discussions, rarely the conversation came up where they requested for your sustainable products. But now, with every customer visit, right, they are requesting what are the sustainable products you have, right? Do you have sustainable products? Can you offer them to us, right? And during the visits, they request a separate section, a discussion on sustainable products. So that's what the customers are really after. There is a huge consumer ask for sustainable products. And on the other hand, there are regulations that are coming, there are regulations that are coming up, especially in USA and in European Union, where they do want to see some aspect of sustainability in your products in order for the products to be sold in this region. So European Union is going to have a regulation which is going to be coming up next year, sometime April next year, where they are going to say, whatever the product that you're bringing into the European Union must have an aspect of sustainability. Otherwise, we will not accept your product, right? So regulations are coming up so that you are bound to have sustainable products in your collection in order to survive in business, right? Then what about the stakeholders? So who are stakeholders? Stakeholders are the people who are having interest in so stakeholders are also very interested. There are products in your portfolio, right? Having sustainable product and your company, very critical, right? You'll be able to promote your company. You'll be able to enhance, have a good collection of sustainable products. And the industry, right? If we look at currently, you will see many companies are promoting them from the sustainable initiatives that we are taking. So products area that is really evolving, and there's a lot of opportunity with this, right? Now the trick.
Hello, everyone. Seems like Mr. Madhivaka, he's having some his experience.
Apologies, I'm back.
Okay, it's all right.
Right. So I'm back. Yes, there was a network issue. So let me share my screen again. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Right. Excellent. Okay, great. Okay. So where were we? We were talking about linear thinking and life cycle thinking, right? So the traditional way of thinking is linear. Product life cycle, we introduce a product, goes through a phase, and we come to a maturity phase and lines. And the way that we were operating is through a linear method. So we're taking a product, taking a material, then we were making a product, we consume, and then we throw it away. That's the linear way of make, consume, and then you throw it away.
Excuse me, Mr. Kandu. Seems like we are having a problem hearing you.
We are thinking about make sure that we don't do it, but can we sort of continue the products in the cycle itself? Right, I'm so sorry for the interruptions. I hope I'm audible and
yes, we can hear you
am
now.
I audible now?
Yes, we can hear you now, Mr. Kavindu.
Is it better?
Yes, this is better. I think this is better.
Okay, so we were discussing about linear thinking, right? From traditional linear thinking, shifting to this life cycle thinking. Now, many brands that we work with do ask, do you consider the life cycle of the product when you manufacture it? And have you done this LCAs to assess the impact that they do ask it, right? So about the impact that we are creating product, not just at the, but you also need to consider about consumer areas of the.
Excuse me, Mr. Kavindu. Kavindu, we are experiencing that. I think we cannot hear you well.
I think it's getting dropped very frequently.
Yes.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
You are audible, Mr. Kavindu. I think it would be better if you could turn off the video for the moment and go ahead with the audio along with the screen sharing.
Right.
That would be better, I think.
Cool, we'll do that. Is my screen visible to you? Not yet, right?
Not yet.
Right. We shared it. There is some rain around. I wonder whether that's the reason.
Yes.
Anyways, right. Okay.
Good to go.
Okay, we were stuck with the linear and life cycle thinking for some time now, so we'll move on. Right. So something that we also need to have in businesses is a sustainable product criteria, right? You need to have a criteria to gauge whether your products are sustainable or not, right? So I'm going to give a bit of an example, right? To choose your sustainable product criteria, and this is from the garments industry. So this is how we look at whether our products can be called sustainable, right? So basically, if it's coming from a natural source, like a bio-based source, or your product is biodegradable, right? If it is compostable, if the remains don't go into water streams and pollute them, then you can call your product sustainable. What if it is coming from a synthetic source, right? If the material is coming from a synthetic source, then if the material is recyclable, or it is in the circular space, you can call it sustainable. Then we also consider the manufacturing processes, right? If you are using energy efficient processing methods, eco-friendly chemicals, then there's a chance that you can call your products sustainable, right? In terms of merchandising aspects, if you are able to source locally, if you get your materials locally as opposed to having to get them from overseas, which will ensure that your transportation is reduced and in fact, the emissions that you are generating are reduced, then you can call it sustainable again. What if you have a product which has a prolonged lifetime? So not having to throw your product away frequently, making sure that your product can be consumed for a prolonged period of time will make sure that the strain that is there to manufacture the product can be reduced, right? So prolonging the lifetime of a product is also considered as a sustainable aspect. And if your product contains a material, a sustainable material for packaging, then maybe that's also a good sign to call that particular product or the entire product sustainable as well. So in your businesses, it is essential that you have a collection of sustainable products. And these are some of the guidelines to develop your sustainable product collection, right? Okay. Now with that, I'm moving on to environmental sustainability. Okay. So with environmental sustainability, one of the key things that we need to aware of is on carbon footprint, right? Everyone is talking about the carbon footprint. So what's carbon footprint? Carbon footprint is defined as the total amount of greenhouse gases that are generated by our actions, right? So what are these greenhouse gases? To know about that, you would need to have a basic understanding about the greenhouse effect, right? So we all know that we get energy from the sun, right? So the solar radiation comes to the globe, and some of the radiation is reflected by the Earth atmosphere. And some of these radiation do pass through the clear atmosphere, and it is absorbed by the Earth's surface and warms it, right? With some of the gases like methane, nitrous oxide, carbon dioxide, what happens is this energy which comes through the way of solar radiation is kept inside, right? So they are not allowed to be re-emitted. So what happens is, since this energy is kept, the atmospheric temperature goes up. Atmospheric temperature goes up. That can result in glacial layers melting, the sea levels rising, and the other catastrophic events that can potentially follow, right? So all this happens because of the greenhouse gases that are generated by our actions, right? And this is what the parties do question. What's the amount of carbon footprint that you are generating in your actions? You have to tell us that, because depending on that only, we will make a decision to work with you, is what some of the brands are now telling us, right? So in order to calculate your carbon footprint, basically there are three aspects that we look into, right? I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but I just want you to have understanding on this. If you take carbon footprint, it's measured with three scopes. So scope 1 is to do with your direct emissions. That is very much in the control of the organization. Then you have your scope 2, which are indirect emissions, like your electricity, like your heating, like your steam. So although it's not generated by the company itself, because the company uses them, someone else has to generate it. And that comes as indirect emissions, which are included in scope 2. And scope 3 is where all other indirect emissions resulting from the activities of an organization. So that's basically outside the scope of the company, but still valid because they do it because you want it, right? Now, increasingly, the customers are asking, what's your carbon footprint? What's your impact? So as people in business, we will also need to have an understanding of these matters as well in order to survive and thrive, right? Then every business has to use resources, right? Every business has to use resources to make sure that they can do the operations. So resources like materials, energy, water are all essential for us to develop and stay in business. And energy is one of the major resources that we use. So basically, the energy can come in renewable form and non-renewable form. So these are the two broad categories to which we can categorize energy, right? So when it comes to non-renewable sources, we have things like coal and oil, which comes from the remains of the plants that died millions of years ago. Then we have natural gas, right? These are remains from tiny sea plants and animals. Then we have nuclear energy. So these are all non-renewable sources. These are what were developed during the Industrial Revolution and post-Industrial Revolution, but these are not very sustainable, right? Then on the other hand, now we have renewable sources like solar energy, which is energy that is coming from the sun. Then you have wind energy, which is energy from the moving air, right? Then we have biomass, which is energy contained in organic matter. Then hydropower is the energy in the force of moving water. And we also have geothermal energy that comes from the heat generated by the Earth's core, right? So distinctly understand renewable sources and non-renewable sources. And now the trend is towards renewable sources, right? Why renewable sources? Because these sources can be replenished and they are much better in terms of their environmental footprints, right? The renewable sources do help in terms of reducing your carbon footprint as well, right? And also in companies, energy conservation is also regarded as quite critical because it saves money, it reduces the use of fossil fuels, and it also helps to slow down global warming, right? Water is another very important resource that you should take care of. Now, water is no longer a free resource, right? It's a costly resource. The cost of your water is going up on a daily basis, right? So as companies, if you are concerned about your environment, water conservation is something that you should effectively do. You should use water efficiently and reduce the unnecessary usage. So some of the practices that are practiced by businesses would include using high efficiency equipment, finding water repair leaks, scheduling water audits, practicing good landscaping techniques. And what you see as an image is how the rainwater harvesting is done in businesses, right? So collecting rainwater, using it for purposes like gardening, right, is something which is going to make an impact to reduce your water usage and footprint as well, right? Then, now we are moving on to sustainability for business operations, right? So every business has activities. We have to do certain activities to make our products, to realize our services, right? So these activities can be broadly divided into two areas: value-added activities and non-value-added activities. What's value? Think about it. What's value? Yeah. So value is what the customers are willing to pay for, very simply, right? And that is something that we should accept, right? We should enhance the value of our products because value is what customers are going to pay us for, right? So if the customers are not willing to pay for any activity that is not adding value or to the product, then we have to either minimize it or eliminate it, depending on the type. So certain non-value added activities are essential to make sure that the value adding activities can take place. For example, now, if you are running a company, the employees has to come to the company, right? They have to be transported to the company. Although the transportation is not a value-added activity, it's essential for the value-adding activities to occur. So although it's a non-value-added activity, it's essential, right? Therefore, your task is to minimize them. Alternatively, your non-value-added activities can also be non-essential, right? They also can be non-essential. So with that in mind, you will look to eliminate it, right? So in a sense, these non-value-added activities are what we call waste. These are what we call wasteful activities. So waste also can be divided into operational waste and production waste, right? So when we look at sustainability in businesses, it's very important that we focus on what value adding activities are. We focus on adding value and we focus also on reducing the waste. So understanding about waste, the categories is important to do this, right? So operational waste, very simply, can be divided into these areas, right? So your inventory, your waiting time, the defects that are created, if you do overproduction, your overprocessing, your transportation, your unnecessary motion are all operational waste. These have also to be reduced if we are to be sustainable. Then we have production waste, right? And do you know that every year we dump over 2 billion tons of waste on the planet, right? That's a thumping amount of waste that we dump, right? Over 2 billion tons of waste on the globe, right? And that is equivalent to 3.5 million times the weight of the largest passenger carrier A380, right? So this is just to give an understanding about the gravity of the problem, right? Next, I would like to show this video. So this is a garbage dump site in Delhi. So this will explain the problem of waste that the globe is facing. So let's take a look.
Thousands of people risk their lives collecting trash in one of India's largest landfills. They sort all kinds of waste, even used syringes. In recent years, fires have become more and more common, threatening people who work here and live nearby. The Balswa landfill burned for 2 months starting in April. When temperatures soared over 110 degrees Fahrenheit in New Delhi. Sahabuddin lost plastic and scrap metal he'd been collecting for years. Firefighters extinguished the open flames after about 2 weeks. But people here are still struggling to breathe. because they've lived next to the smoldering plumes the whole time.
उसकी लाइफ तो समझिए बहुत ही नर्क लाइफ है.
As garbage piles up and the planet warms, landfill fires are expected to get worse. We went to India to meet the people who make their living next to a flaming mountain of worldwide waste. Every day, the tens of millions of people that live in the city of Delhi generate 10,000 metric tons of waste. Nearly all of it ends up in one of 3 surrounding landfills.
Now, most of these dump sites have gone beyond their capacity and they're overflowing with waste. And that's the real problem today.
Balswa was supposed to close more than 10 years ago, but it keeps accepting garbage, up to 600 truckloads every day. Backhoe operators like Rahul move the waste to make pathways for the trucks to drive to the top.
जनता के लिए काम कर रहे हैं, सब बना रहे हैं रास्ते.
Around 75,000 people, known in India as rag pickers, make their living in Delhi's dumps.
सारा बिकता है, ऐसा कुछ बात नहीं है. जब अब 1 रुपए किलो बिके, चाहे 8 ना, वो सब बिक रहा है. जब देखो जी, मेन तो हमारा स्क्रैप का काम है, प्लास्टिक का भी है, मतलब रद्दी का भी है, हर चीज़ का है, लेकिन अपना मटेरियल अलग-अलग करके जब बेचता.
The average rag picker earns 200 to 300 rupees a day, about $3 to $4, with plastic and metal being the most valuable items collected. Even when they're not on fire, the landfills pose major health risks.
हाँ, मक्खियाँ भी हैं, मक्खियों की भी दिक्कत है. सुबह क्या, शाम क्या, दोपहर क्या, हर टाइम मक्खी रहती है. देख भी रहोगे आप लोग यहाँ पे, इससे भी दिक्कत है. अब ये क्या, ये मक्खी गंदगी तो है ही है, गंदगी की वजह से खाने वाने पे बैठती है, तो उससे भी दिक्कत ही है हम लोगों को. ये तो सब चीज़ से दिक्कत है यहाँ पे.
Dr. Jivasau has been treating patients who work at the Balswa landfill for over 20 years.
डेली कमाते, डेली खाते हैं, मजबूरी है. जो बहुत लेबर क्लास के लोग ऐसे 10 दिन, महीना दिन कमाया खाया, और जो कुछ बचता है लेकर के गाँव भाग जाते, गाँव देहात चले जाते.
Balswa doesn't have a proper drainage system, so runoff from the landfill makes its way into the groundwater.
पानी यहाँ बहुत ही बेकार आता है. दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट के भी पानी बेकार आती है, और ऑलरेडी यहाँ तो ज़मीन के जो पानी है लोग ले ही नहीं पाते, कारण ज़मीन के पानी इतनी कड़वी और इतनी जहर है, तो ज़मीन के पानी तो लोग इस्तेमाल नहीं करते हैं.
Scientists use the Air Quality Index, or AQI, to measure air pollution, and India has one of the worst measures in the world. One study said air pollution led to more than 1.6 million premature deaths in 2019. Then there's the odor.
स्मेल की भी गंध जो होती है, उसकी महक वो भी बर्दाश्त नहीं होती है. जब आग लगती है तो उसकी भी महक बर्दाश्त नहीं होती बिल्कुल भी.
Not to mention the everyday dangers of rag picking.
हर तरीके की परेशानी, कहाँ तक परेशानी बताएं आपको. ये देखो, और दिखाऊं आपको, पैरों में देख लो, ये देखो. डर तो हमेशा, आपको पता ही है कि डर हमेशा इंसान को रहती है.
So, how did the landfill fires start? Lithium-ion batteries, which are increasingly entering the waste stream, can spontaneously explode. But in India, the brutal heat wave was the most likely culprit.
कोई लगाता नहीं है यहाँ पर आग. क्यों? इससे तो हमारा काम चलता है. इससे तो हम 2-4 रुपए कमा के अपना पेट भरते हैं.
In addition to plastic and other trash, the methane from decomposing garbage fuels fire. And these fumes contain all kinds of chemicals, which can cause tuberculosis in the short term and cancer if inhaled over a long period of time.
Right. So I hope you do understand the gravity of the problem that we are facing. Right. So that leads us to think what we can do about it. Right. So we have to manage our waste. In businesses, we are supposed to manage our waste from the point of inception to the final disposal. So the collection, transport, treatment, disposal of waste that we create is something that we really need to consider. It's coming up in regulations. And if you do manage your waste, that will also help to cut your costs. And that's also quite important, right? So what are the techniques? What are the methods that are available to manage our waste, right? There are so many methods, but today I selected the 5R method to introduce to you, right? So 5 R's are refuse, reduce, reuse, repurpose, and recycle, right? The first step in managing your waste is to refuse, say no, right? So there are so many things that we can say no to. For example, the straw, right? You really don't want a straw to consume the liquid which is in a glass, right? You can say no to that straw because that is going to be used only for one time and it's going to be thrown away, right? So think about it. And also shopping bags, right? Maybe we are using some of the shopping bags that are given to us for seconds, right? Only until you get it from the shop, until you come to your vehicle, right? So you can easily say no to that. Just because it's given, we can stop using it in the traditional manner, but to say no and refuse it. And in the businesses also, we can refuse like that if you think about it, right? So your invoice slips, your single-use plastics, unnecessary packagings of the products, right? You can talk with your vendor partners, you can talk to your suppliers and say, I really don't need this. You don't need to send me this. I'll be fine without it, right? So there will be so many opportunities in businesses. It's a matter of application and thinking about it a little bit. So refusal is your first step to manage waste. Then if you really have to use it, then think about how you can reduce, right? Now, for example, in garment industry, we use bonding technique to bond two fabric layers together, right? So the easy way of going about it is to use as much as adhesive to bond these two materials together, right? Then it will have no issues in delamination. It will pass your wash performance will be fine. But do we really need to do it? No, we can make sure that we use the optimum amount of glue. We reduce the usage as much as possible to make sure that you manage our waste, right? Additional use of any material is a waste if it is not required by the customer. If the customer is not willing to pay for it, it does not add value. That's what we discussed. So reduction is a good technique, the second technique to use. So using both sides of the paper, buying in bulk to reduce your packaging waste are all ways of reducing the consumption. Then reusing, an easy thing that we can all do. We can reuse our plastic bottles, jugs, containers, plastic bags, maybe paper bags, right? Newspapers, clothing items. So reusing is also a very good way of managing your waste. So I have a little example here, right? So in our plant, we used to produce panels, garment panels, and then put them inside this cardboard sheets, right? So we put them inside these cardboard sheets, and then we use tape to tape around the cardboard, and we pass it on to the next stage, right? So someone thought in the company, why are we doing this? When we do this, we have to incur a cost for the clear tapes. And once the product is used, then we have to throw away that clear tape because it's all bonded to that cardboard. The cardboard is also difficult to be used, right? So it's generating a lot of waste. So he thought, can't we use a reusable strap with a Velcro, right? And apply it like this. So it's a very simple thought, right? It's a very simple thought, but this resulted in a big cost saving for the company as well, right? So it's a simple example of reuse because the reusable strap can be used over and over again. So in your businesses, in your companies, in the places that you work for, you will have these opportunities. It's a matter of thinking a little bit more to come up with alternative solutions. Then repurpose is the fourth R. So you can also, once you finish using a certain product, you can use it for another purpose. A classic example is your towel. Once you finish using a towel, maybe you can use it for a rug, right? Once you finish using your plastic bottles, maybe you can use it for planting or to put your food, right? So these are the alternative methods that might be available rather than throwing it away to repurpose. Then the final step would be to recycle. So when we say waste management, some people say immediately it's about recycling. No, there are 4 other things that you can do: refusing, reducing, reusing, and repurposing. Only after that the recycle phase comes, right? So with recycling, what you do is you manufacture the raw material back again and then continue that in the process, right? So here is an example. I just wanted to show you this example where a plastic bottle, rather than throwing it in the garbage bin, just look at how it can be used to manufacture something else, right? So let's take a look. To enlighten you on some of the possibilities, right? ESG, you might have heard this, right? Environmental and social governance is also something which has been discussed in the businesses, in the organizations, right? So it's a framework that will help stakeholders to understand how organizations are managing risks and opportunities that are related to social, environmental, and governance criteria. So this is something in terms of a initiative, in terms of a report that the customers are looking for, right? And I want to share a little case study, right? Where in the company that I work for, we use sustainability to enhance the business revenue and profit, right? So sustainability is not something that is separate from your business, right? It is something that you can integrate to your business to make sure that the business do well, right? In terms of generating revenue and profit, right? So let me explain. So in the plant that I work for, we use molded bra cups, right? So this is the bra pad that is used for the bra, right? So in order to manufacture this, we have to use a layer of fabric. We have to sandwich a polyurethane-based form, the sponge, between two fabrics, and then we'll have to subject it to an operation called molding, right? So during molding, you heat aluminum molds like this, right? Then you have that material in between like this, and then you press it together, and thereby you create the shape. But in order for this operation to happen, you would need to apply a lot of energy in terms of heat, pressure, and you have to keep the mold closed for some time. So the traditional settings are around 185 degrees Celsius. We have to mold it for around 150 seconds at 6 bar pressure. This will incur around 20 watt-hours. Now, traditionally, we were not able to reduce these settings because it's an inherent property of the material. But the innovation team brainstormed, and then they developed a material which could be processed at a much lower temperature, right? So we did the analysis, we did the development, we did the material innovations, and we realized that it is possible to reduce these settings to make sure that we can reduce the amount of energy that is consumed. Then we didn't stop there. We got a certificate from a third party. We got a certificate from a third party authorization body to certify that we actually do this saving. And by doing this, we could conserve our energy by around 40 megawatt hours per year. And then there was a cost saving because we were reducing the energy that is used. Then it created additional business as well, because this was a sustainable practice. The consumers, the customers really liked it, and they gave us additional business as well. So the message here is that sustainability is something that you can use in your businesses to really elevate yourself. You can save energy, you can save cost, and you can additional business. So sustainability is something that can be really integrated to your business to the benefit, right? Then I'm just going to touch on sustainable supply chains because we are running out of time. So sustainability is something that you can't do in your own, right? By your own. You will have to have support from your ecosystem partners. So if your suppliers are not supporting, if your contractors are not supporting, if your customers are not supporting, you can't really operate successfully to do your sustainability initiatives. So having sustainable supply chains to support your cause is also quite important. And this is where we talk about supply chain integration, support, and getting their consent to make sure that both yourself and your suppliers are all aligned. Then green transportation is another evolving area. So this is about making sure that your transportation are sustainable as possible. And then green warehousing is another evolving area, because at warehouses, you use a lot of area, right? You use a lot of resources. So making your warehouses sustainable is also some expectation at the moment, right? Then we have to integrate sustainability into logistics, right? Because in order for the reusing, repairing, remanufacturing to happen, there also has to be reverse logistics in place. So opposed to the traditional forward logistics, now the logistics chains are also amended to contribute to the sustainability of companies, right? Then I want to quickly introduce you to the concept of greenwashing, right? Have you heard the term greenwashing? Any thoughts? Right. So greenwashing, I'm just going to show you an image, right? So look at what this guy is doing, right? He is a part of a factory, and these are the chimneys, and you can see that toxic fumes are emitted from these chimneys, right? a lot of toxic emissions. So it actually is not so good. It's negative, right? But what this guy is doing is he's painting the chimneys with a green color paint, right? See how smart he is. He's coloring it in green to show that the practice, the company is a sustainable company. And that is what greenwashing is about, right? Greenwashing is about where a company makes a claim about something that the organization is doing to promote that it is environmentally sustainable, which does not exist. What does it do? It misleads the consumers. It can be intentional, it can be unintentional as well. But whatever it is, greenwashing is something that you should avoid. You should avoid doing, you should avoid getting into, right? Okay, so let me show you some examples. Now this package is marked as recyclable, right? So the plastic package which contains a shower curtain is labeled as recyclable. But it is only the package which is recyclable, not what is inside. But to a consumer, to a layman, it might seem that the total product is recyclable, which is not. And that is greenwashing. It's trying to mislead, right? And look at this. An area rug is there. It's called 50% more recycled, right? So 50% more recycled is good, right? Someone might think that, oh, 50% of the content is recycled. Therefore, I should have it. But what have they done? They have increased the recycled content, which was 2% before, to 3%. So it is actually 3%. But since they have increased it from 2% to 3%, they are calling it 50% more recycled, right? So that's another example of greenwashing. And this trash bag is labeled as recyclable. So we know none of the trash bags practically can be recycled, because when it is filled with trash, it contaminates and it is impossible to be recycled. That's another example of greenwashing, right? So how are we to overcome greenwashing? One is to enhance the traceability. So what is traceability? It's about having track of what happened, where it happened, and who did it, right? So in terms of traceability, we discussed traceability in terms of chain traceability, where we trace what's happening between corporates, between companies, and we also trace internal traceability, which is to trace what's happening inside your processes. And the second way is to get certifications, right? So certifications can be obtained for a product, for environmental sustainability and social sustainability. So I have on the screen put down some other certifications, sustainability related certifications that are out there. So I will not go into detail because we are really running out of time. And sustainability reporting is something that is evolving as well. Now people are talking about the Global Reporting Initiative. Now, many of the regulations that are coming up are seeking for this in the future. So this is at the moment voluntary. You can voluntarily report what you are doing well in terms of your environment, social and economic factors, but it is likely that this is going to be mandatory in the future as well, right? So this is an example from AIBS Holdings, where they depict their sustainability report. So things like this is not happening with everyone, but the large corporates are doing reporting initiatives. So HEMAS, companies like Dilma, MAs are doing it. In the future, many other companies will also have to follow. So you can see in the sustainability report, there is the broad theme. So for MAs, it is plan for change. So what are they doing in terms of plan for change? What are they doing for product sustainability, people sustainability, planet sustainability, the 3 pillars that we talked about, and what's their progress, where they are heading to, what their achievements are, all will come as a report on an annual basis in the future, right? I want to show you this video. So this is from AIBS Holdings. So I want you to observe how they have successfully incorporated the good practices of sustainability to the business so that the businesses would thrive and the planet would thrive as well. So take a look. This describes very nicely how the 3 pillars of sustainability can be incorporated into businesses. So let's take a look.
When our founders began MAS 35 years ago, they knew they were stepping into an industry that needed to change. The fundamental question they wanted to address was, how could we be a central part of that change?
The fashion industry in general, if you look at the apparel and textile industry, has been considered as one of the largest polluters of the world. MAS Holdings is regarded as one of the leading manufacturers of apparel and textile in South Asia, and we work with some of the large and well-known iconic brands of the world. As a company, we realized quite early in our journey that as an organization, we cannot really succeed if the society around us continues to fail. And that's the realization that we arrived quite early in our journey. We believe that we are able to present ourselves as an organization that truly lives its purpose, lives by its values, and are able to really and truly make a difference to all parts of society.
The industry, traditionally, we have a very linear system where we take materials out of the earth, make our raw material, we stitch, we send it to a consumer who will use it and throw it. We really need to change this now, and that's what we are working tirelessly on, how we can create a life for the post-consumer product, working very closely with our brand partners. There's a lot of work we've done, and we now have brought it together through MA's Plan for Change, where we have taken an ambitious challenge of converting 50% of our revenue to sustainable product by 2025. Our focus and our ultimate goal is to make sure through innovation we are able to make products that last longer, stay in use for longer, also making products that use less resources, and most importantly, that the wearer still loves.
எனக்கு பிள்ளைய வந்து எனக்கு டே கேரில் நான் விடுறேன். அப்போ அவங்க வந்து அங்கே பாதுகாப்பாக இருக்கிறாங்க. எனக்கு முதலாவது பவா வந்து 2 வயசில் அடுத்த பவா. அப்போ அந்த டைமில் கூட எனக்கு நான் வேலைக்கு வராமல் லீவில் இருக்க கூட எனக்கு டே கேரில் தான் நான் பாதுகாப்பாக விடக்கூடிய மாதிரி இருந்தேன். அப்போ எனக்கு வந்து வேலைக்கு வந்து கஷ்டம் இல்லை. பவாவை கொண்டு வந்து நான் டே கேரில் விட்டுட்டு தான் இங்கே வர்றது. அப்போ எங்களோட ஃபேமிலியில் வந்து எங்களுக்கு பாதுகாப்பு இருக்குது. மற்றது எங்களுக்கு போக்குவரத்து பிரச்சனை இல்லை, டிரான்ஸ்போர்ட் தராது. அதால் எனக்கு நாங்கள் பாதுகாப்பாக வேலை செய்கிறோம்ன்றது அவங்களுக்கு தெரியும். மற்றது நிறுவனம் வந்து எம்ஏஎஸ்ன்றது நல்ல நிறுவனம்.
Women Go Beyond is a dedicated program to achieve MAS's gender equality agenda. The work requires us to look at different gaps and different challenges. We have flexible work arrangements for men and women both, so that one of the biggest challenges that leads to the gender gap in leadership and management, which is the fact that women to date carry majority of the childcare and home care responsibility, can be addressed if we have men and women participating more in their families and in their homes. For businesses, the different perspectives are vital for stronger problem solving, more innovation, better governance. It seems obvious that people from different backgrounds with different skill sets, with different life experiences would bring different perspectives to a problem. And now the data and the research shows very clearly that there is a business case for having more diverse people in our teams.
Sri Lanka is a highly biodiverse, rich country. And one of the things that we realized that we had been doing is when we cleared areas of land for building our plants and putting car parks and all that, we were displacing a lot of the biodiversity that was in that area. So we made a commitment that for every acre of land that we have destroyed, in effect, that we were going to rejuvenate or replant 100 times of what we had displaced. We realized that there was an opportunity and take seeds into locations that were difficult to access and drop them into rain-sodden soil, where the success rate of them germinating was pretty high. So we did it as an experiment first in the Anuradhapura area, which is in central Sri Lanka. And then we have now subsequently done it in several locations with a fairly high level of success.
The Plan for Change is our commitment to inspire sustainable change within our business, within our communities, but also amongst our customers and our suppliers as well. The Plan for Change is comprised of 3 focus areas: lives changed for good, our planet changed for good, and also products changed for good. None of this can happen in unison or in isolation. It's really important for different players to really come together, whether you're competitors, or whether it's a supply chain, customers, regulators, industry bodies, technology providers. Everybody has to come together in order to truly make a difference.
As citizens of this country and as residents on the only planet we have, I think it becomes extremely important that each one of us not only educates ourselves on the impact we personally make on the planet, but try and make a commitment that whatever we do, we try to leave the world net positive for us being there. So as individuals and organizations, it's really important that that net positive attitude, if we can just live that, the world will be a better place.
Right, so that was quite inspiring, isn't it? Right. So let me summarize what we discussed. So we started by looking at what sustainability means, what are the 3 pillars of sustainability, and the initiatives that were taken, which landed us with sustainable development goals. And then I discussed about some of the activities which can be categorized into value adding and non-value adding. And I said that the thinking pattern is changing from a linear way to a more circular way. Then we discussed about the importance of having sustainable products in our collection and why we should really look at waste management. And then we discussed about what greenwashing is, and in order to reduce greenwashing, the importance of traceability and certifications. So my final message would be sustainability is something that everyone is talking about. And really gone are the days where beach cleanups or tree planting campaigns were regarded as sustainability, right? So when someone talks about sustainability, immediately what goes to our mind is a tree planting campaign or a beach cleanup, right? That is not the case now. Things have evolved, and sustainability is also not a destination, it's a journey, right? It has evolved so that now it's considered to be an integral part of the business. And with the customers' demands increasing, new regulations coming up, the possibilities of branding, businesses can really benefit from being sustainable. And as people working in organizations, we also have to be aware of these practices and support the businesses. But it's a matter of brainstorming, matter of thinking differently, innovating and making applications to make companies more sustainable. And by doing so, you can make businesses more sustainable, and also you can make the planet more sustainable as well, right? Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover. We are moving on to a Q&A session. Since the network is better now, I think I can move on.
Thank you very much for a very interesting and a resourceful session. Thank you very much, Kavindu. We have some questions from the audience, so due to the time factor, I thought of selecting the first 2 questions. Yeah, there's this question. Somebody's asking, what did you mean by circular and synthetic supply?
Right, thank you for asking that question. So as we discussed, circularity is something that we do to make sure that the material and the product are kept in the system, right? So when it comes to synthetic materials, so we know there are mainly 2 types of materials. There are natural materials, there are synthetic materials. So in textiles, we use materials like nylons, polyesters, which are synthetic material. So circularity for synthetics would mean that you would essentially need to recycle them, right? Once the product comes to the end of the life cycle, you need to recycle them, maybe back to the granules, back to the raw materials. So if I take an example, you can convert your nylon top, and then you can melt it and make granules out of it. From the granules, you can make fibers and yarns, and then from that you can make a fabric, and then you can dye it and make a garment again. So you see, it is kept in that cycle without disposing it, without wasting it. So that is what circularity is for synthetics. So hope I'm clear.
Yes, hope you would have understood the answer. The next question is about for an export business with the upcoming EU and US new legislation, what do you think business should prioritize the strategies with?
Right, so that's a good question. So as I said, the European Union is very particular. They are very proactive in coming up with these regulations. Their regulations would include forced labor regulations, deforestation regulations, having import control systems, and making sure that the supply chains are aligned so that they are able to provide the ESG reports, like GRI reports. So having, as a company, if you are sort of thinking about what you need to do, essentially you would need to have environmental, social, and governance practices in place. You would need someone to look after that, right? You would need to create reports on what you are doing, right? They will assess those before they get your products in. And you have to make sure that you have compliance requirements satisfied in terms of using right quality of labor, right? Without using forced labor and child labor, right? Then essentially you would need to have your sustainable products developed as well, so that you are ready to show that you are all aligned in terms of sustainability, in terms of what the expectations are, right? Hope I'm clear on that.
Yes, I think so. Yes, guys, if you have any other additional questions or comment, please feel free to reach Mr. Madhivaka after the session, or contact our product coordinator at AIBS campus, Ms. Nipunika Sirimana, on 07789339997. We will repeat that number once again at the end of the session. Now we'll go to certain other questions where they are asking about to discuss about the business degree programs that's available at AIBS. So discuss about all the degree programs that's available at AIBS. I would now like to invite Ms. Nipunika Sirimana, our product coordinator, to give us a brief overview.
Thank you, Ms. Sanas.
Yes.
Hope you all can see my screen.
Not yet, Nipunika. Yes, we can see.
Can I see my screen?
Now. Yes, we can see clearly.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Shanas. Thank you everyone for joining with us today. And thank you, Mr. Kavindu, for the insightful session. I'm Nipunika, Program Coordinator, AIBS School of Business. For the attendees who have been requesting information about AIBS School of Business, let me give a quick overview. AIBS School of Business currently delivers 3 degree pathway programs with the estimate partnership we have with Pearson UK and Edge Hill University. So we are offering BSc Honours in International Business, BSc Honours in Marketing, BSc Honours in Accounting and Finance. these degree programs are structured in a way where you could complete the first 2 years as a PSN accredited HND and continue up to the bachelor's. We are conducting these programs with flexible timetable and easy payment plan as well. So if you have more information, you can contact me through this number. Thank you once again. Over to you, Ms. Shanaz.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Nipunika, for that comprehensive overview of the degree programs available at AIBS campus. Your insights are greatly appreciated. And thank you, Mr. Madhivaka, for sharing your invaluable insights into sustainability and your impressive work at MAS Saluta. And your expertise and practical examples have truly deepened our understanding how sustainability can effectively integrate it into business practices. To summarize some key takeaways from the presentation, we have learned about the crucial role of sustainable product development, the challenges associated with that, and how innovative material discovery can contribute to a more sustainable future. So with that, I would like to extend our gratitude to everyone in the audience for your thoughtful questions and active participations. Your engagement has enriched our discussion on highlighted and importance of addressing sustainability in all aspects of business. Finally, once again, thank you very much, Mr. Kavindu Madhivaka, for your time and for providing us with such valuable knowledge. We look forward to seeing the continued impact of your work in advancing sustainability. So then, thank you all for attending and have a wonderful day. Thank you very much, everyone, once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.